all set, folks? Okay, the time being 6:32, I call to order the Tilton Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, January 30th, 2018. Okay, first on our agenda this evening is the public hearing on zoning amendments. Amendment 1, prepared by the Planning Board. The effect of the proposed amendment would be to revise Articles 2 and 6 to define self-storage facilities and to establish that such uses shall be permitted in the regional commercial, general commercial, and industrial districts and allowed through special exception in the mixed-use and resort commercial districts. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to speak on that? Anyone on the board? Do we have to hold the meeting open for a certain amount of time, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm thinking, because we noticed this through first-class mail since the last hearing, probably the only thing left to do would be to make a similar motion to last time to accept, if the planning board accepts this, accept this as the final form to go on the ballot.
I think that's a good idea. Would anyone like to make that motion? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Jim.
I'll make a motion to accept Amendment 1 as prepared by the Planning Board to go on the official ballot.
You seconded it?
Christine seconded.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, first thing is review of the December 28th, 2017 minutes.
So we're just doing Amendment 1? Oh, okay. Make a motion. Oh, sorry. You weren't here.
I'll make a motion to accept but they're called draft minutes?
Or their draft until we approve them.
Okay. Minute meetings, December 28th, 2017, as written.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstaining? Who's Deb? She was absent. So now we have the January 9th, 2018 minutes.
I don't think it was you.
Everybody?
Are you looking for that?
No, I know.
a motion to accept the Tilton Planning Board meeting minutes of January 9th, 2018 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Abstaining.
Abstaining?
Thanks. Is that Ms. Harvey
Yeah.
and Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Thanks.
And the January 10th minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of January 10th, 2018 as written.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstain.
You opposed?
You opposed?
No, I said. Didn't I say?
Oh, you said
I said
aye.
second.
She's saying
Right, I said
Oh.
I
second.
abstained, yeah.
All right. Next, planning board case 17-14, continuation of subdivision site plan review and conditional use permit, groundwater protection district for Tilton Retail LLC.
There's a letter, it's, the heading is Bowler Engineering. If you want, I'll just read it real quick. Dear board members, the subject review is scheduled to be presented to the board at their public hearing on January 30th, 2018. On behalf of the applicant, Tilton Retail LLC, we respectfully request a continuance from the January 30th, 2018 hearing to the February 13th, 2018 hearing. The purpose of the continuance is to allow completion of the peer review process. You know, it goes on. We look forward to further discussing the project at the February 13th, 2018 hearing. We trust this letter is sufficient for your needs at this time. Please don't contact us. Don't hesitate to contact us if you need us. Basically what it says. So there's a request to continue to February 13th. And I can tell you that the third-party review, I haven't, last time I checked my email, it's not here yet. I expect it here probably tomorrow, so. So a motion from a board member potentially, to continue to February 13th.
I make a motion to continue planning board case 17-14, a continuation of subdivision site plan review and conditional use permit till February 13th, 2018.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Planning board case 18-01, continuation of site plan review, proposal from AutoServe to operate an automobile and automobile parts sales business at 67 East Main Street in the Regional Commercial District. Come on up.
Just to remind the board, although this is a continuation, the board has not voted to accept the application yet.
Sure. Hot seat.
to make a motion to accept planning board 18-01 as substantially complete.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Discussion?
Oops, sorry. Discussion.
So the only thing I see that we've gotten, that we discussed is missing from the application is some indication where snow storage would be, but there's nothing on the lighting. There's nothing on the landscaping, if there's gonna be any alteration, if it's gonna stay the same. Signage, is that gonna be the same?
Is that part of site plan review, though?
Yep.
So should we accept it and then talk about whether he's going to do that?
I just wanna make sure it's in the record that we didn't accept it the last time, and I assumed it was because it wasn't complete.
I
But
don't
that was
remember.
substantially complete, I was kind of.
Well, we can also accept it for like discussion purposes.
Partially complete?
We can accept it for discussion purposes.
What's not complete?
I don't know, it seems complete.
What's not complete about it, Catherine?
Lighting, she said, and they do have
Well, I'd like
some.
to know.
I mean, if it's checked off and then,
But isn't that discussion during this review of the site plan?
If you're, sorry, my eyes are foggy. If you're looking or asking me, there is, a planning board can accept something for deliberation even if it acknowledges there are elements that are incomplete, if it feels like it's complete enough and that it wants to, open up the discussion and potentially request things for a future date, but that's the planning board's decision. I will say, things that were submitted since last time, yes, it includes the snow storage, but also there was a waiver request letter that was added to the application. The checklist was further completed. There was some signage documented, 4 pages of signage information submitted. That.
Do you have anything on lighting?
I don't see anything on lighting.
It's not part of the site plan application, so I'm bring up lighting, but there's also no, doesn't tell us, what the wetland buffer is. How it pertains to them, thinking of the one to the west mostly. But there's also, the Wetland Conservation Commission discovered on the eastern corner. But that's not, that baffles me. I couldn't find anywhere today, because we're still in discussion, where it's required. There is language that says they have to provide us with anything we want. But the application itself doesn't require the delineation of wetland buffer. Interesting. Anyway, how do you suggest we use, what language do we use to accept it for discussion?
I think you could say that.
Substantially complete?
Yeah, you could say it's. I think you did this somewhat with a recent case where you said you're going to accept it, noting that there were elements still required elements still missing, but accepted for the purpose of deliberation.
Like that one.
So are you making a motion, Kathleen?
Well, you
He
do
says-
have a
I-
We
motion.
already had a motion on
I have a motion.
So
it.
Shall I amend my motion?
it's up to you.
Okay. I amend my motion to say, I'd like to make a motion to accept planning board case 18-01 to accept the application for deliberation purposes.
All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Deliberate.
So,
Do we have a bigger plan than this?
Yeah, I think I could get a bigger plan for you.
I can't read it.
We passed them out last time, so it's no different than what was passed out last time. But
Oh, okay.
I can read it under my
did
glasses.
you guys vote, by the way, or did you just first and
Yes, we
second?
did
You
vote.
We
okay.
did vote.
So we can,
And we have 6
Continue
items that they're requesting waivers for.
okay.
So we can either go over them individually in a total, and feel if those should be waived from, get that out of the way.
Oh, is that on the new one? I figured out if I have the old one. What must be on the new one?
It is.
I have a few,
Yeah.
couple copies here, and then
We can
if you know,
share.
if you need, I can run down and
I have to go one down this one.
Oh, why is mine still?
Doesn't do any good there, does it?
Thanks.
Oh, not on that one.
What?
Because my eyesight.
No.
Old lady eyes.
Ta-da!
Just wake up.
Kind of, sort of.
Why don't you ask?
I figured when I came back.
So as far as the first waiver grades, there'll be no changes, so,
Did you want to let him speak, or?
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you did it last time.
What?
Didn't they last time?
No, that guy was on vacation.
That's right, Roland said this last time. So you get to present it.
Okay,
Tell us what you're doing.
so,
You want to come up here and
Sure.
talk into the microphone?
so primarily, as you remember, the location was an Agway store. We purchased it, turned the property into a farmer's market, ran that for a few years, then leased the property to a furniture store who ran the property for a few years and unfortunately was no longer able to make the rent payments. So we took the property back over and are looking to expand our sales operation into that building. So what you see as far as the layout, there is no change. Our plan is to put 2 to 5 salespeople that are what we consider truck specialists in that store, specifically to talk about truck accessories. So that's ideally what we're looking to do. There's not going to be any change for landscape. There's not going to be any change for lighting. The building stays as it is, other than, general maintenance on the property to keep it up. That's our full intention for the property.
I notice you have like a parking lot just full of trucks now.
Right.
Is there gonna be room for people to come and go? I mean, is there gonna be some parking for customers?
There'll be parking for customers. Right now, we're using it as an overflow, and quite frankly, we're in the process of trying to purchase another storage lot. The property that is across from Lowe's, the big piece of property where you had the Global package on and a couple of other stations, well, the Global deal had failed, so we went ahead and started parking cars there. We have it under agreement again. We're hoping that this time it actually happens. But, so we didn't want to become so committed to that lot by putting everything back over there. The plan would be, if in fact the property is going to close, we're going to find another storage lot that will take the excess inventory at that Agway station and move it to there. We know what we need to do to run a retail store, and that means prominent parking out front, which we will have when we in fact staff it. We are in the midst of opening up that former Benson location, which opens on February 5th, so that's got our attention for now. I think we're at least 30 days away from staffing this, so you'll see a lot less inventory there the long way around when we do open it up.
So nothing's gonna change on the outside, no lighting, no landscaping, nothing's gonna change?
Exactly the same.
So it's sales for truck parts,
Correct.
no sales before,
Correct.
Signage.
so.
Are you gonna be selling vehicles and truck parts, or just the truck parts?
Well, we'll be selling some of, the idea is The stuff that we're selling out of there isn't necessarily on location, it's ordered. So if you wanted to order a utility body, you would come in there, meet with the salesperson. We might have a couple of utility bodies or heavy equipment pieces in there for display, and then you would order your vehicle. It would be delivered to us, and then you would come in at that delivery time to take delivery of it. It's a heavier truck than what we normally stock.
But you're not selling cars and trucks. So basically, it was a retail establishment and you're going to another retail establishment. The only thing changing is what you're selling.
I'm going to be selling cars and trucks out of
Okay,
there,
that's
as
what-
well as
that's what
equipment.
okay,
Yeah.
as well as the equipment, all right.
Right.
Will you be performing any service in there on vehicles?
No. No, we don't have service bays in there or anything to that. And the only bay areas that are in there are space that's leased out to the Concord Monitor. So they use that for newspaper storage to deliver in this area.
Is that going to continue?
Yes.
Driving by there, it looks like your trucks in the front are creeping perhaps over your property line. And I thought there was some type of visual easement that goes to Coles along that pond, looking out back. Maybe I'm hallucinating.
So they would, so they
I
have
remember
to
we had that
stay.
issue when Aspen Dental went in. I thought there was some type of visual right-of-way, visual easement.
We're actually pretty close with the neighbors and talk to them fairly regularly. We actually help them out with some of their needs when their sanders aren't there and so forth. So, I mean, if there's a neighbor that has an issue with us blocking a view, we'll gladly work it out with them.
I think you were the one that had the problem with the view when Aspen Dental went in, if my memory recalls. You were the one who came in and talked about the easement.
Yeah, I do remember that.
George Ryan came in to talk
Yeah.
about the right of way. He
Yeah.
owns that property.
When he owned it.
His condo has told
Yes,
the
that-
fact that
that-
it existed, and you came with him.
Right, that's right.
But there isn't any, I don't believe that easement that you're talking about, Eric, pertains to this property, because this is.
No, but it just seems like their trucks are creeping.
Yes, they look like creeping forward, but
The issue was the George Ryan property, actually, and we ended up purchasing the George Ryan property, which solved that viewing problem.
How many vehicles will you have on site to sell?
Less than we have there now. What you're seeing there now is storage. That's not necessarily, that's not viable to invite people in. We hope to move away from it being storage and having it more display, where the cars are a little more prominently displayed with parking.
Like this for my,
Yep,
I'm trying to picture it, like you have the front along the road.
Correct.
And you have the other lot, the side lot that is like 2 or 3 rows deep. Will you be using one or the other for the display lot and then the other for parking?
so ideally, the parking would always be in front of the building. So the front row would be on the roadside, would be display. If you're facing the property, the right side would normally be the parking lot. The parking lot that we use for the farmer's market would be display. We would have people parking right in front of the building as they come in. That's my hope
Across from
anyways.
the post office, basically.
Correct.
Right. Just trying to picture it.
Yep.
What else, isn't there a wetlands on the very corner of that property that's not on here?
There's a pond on the left side of that. Facing the building, there's a pond there.
On the right side, along Bitter Lane, I know was an issue for the proposed dome that was going in.
That's
There-
MB Tractors, though.
Yeah, there's nothing on my right side that's wet.
there
I
is,
think that's MB Tractors.
I have pictures of it.
The only wet that I know of on my right side is behind me on the corner, which is what I believe is MB's property, but
That's what I thought it was too.
So this print shows 2 12-inch reinforced concrete pipes. Looks like a culvert going underneath the road or drainage pipe going under the road to, and I'm not sure if it's the one that I was down there with the conservation, or a couple of conservation commission members. And that just comes to daylight over some stone and goes directly into Ice House Pond. I don't see on this print any type of catch basin. So I don't quite understand what happens there on your property with these pipes. But I do know that when we were there, the Conservation Commission members discovered a spring, a wetlands, right near this pipe. That's why I'm saying I believe it is on your property. But the fact is, without having any wetlands identified here, except for the two ponds, we don't know. But I do know it exists. I've seen it myself, and I do have pictures of it.
It's probably, I'm not disputing that. I haven't gone to look to see where that particular area you're describing is, but I can tell you that we've made no change to that property since we purchased it back from Agway. So where that comes from and where that goes under the ground, I'm not sure. But I know that when I've pulled in there and having managed that parking lot for some time, walking out there, I'm not familiar with any areas that I've walked on our property that are wet over in that particular area. I do know that Mark doesn't necessarily park in the corner of his parking lot there, and I for whatever reason, I don't know why, because he seems to park, he certainly puts enough equipment on my property, but that particular area on his property is, I never really see any equipment there, and that might be why there's nothing parked there.
That wetland drains into this pipe.
Okay.
Right now, they're storing snow on top of it, which shouldn't be allowed. There's no storage areas on this new mound. The one on the western side, I think it's too close to that pond on that side. Again, with no buffers indicated here. I mean, this may be an existing site, but now this site plan is before us. So we have to look at all of these things, especially the wetlands. You have two very sensitive areas here. And there is no berm controlling storm runoff on this. There's no drainage system on it except for what I see, these 12-inch reinforced concrete pipes. So where's that stormwater runoff going?
You know, Catherine, I mean, we've never had a problem with storm runoff water there. We've never had a problem with wet there. It's always been a high and dry piece of property since I've owned it. I can't speak to when it flows back from me, but we sit up pretty high there.
50-year storm event, we got a couple hundred years. Where's it going?
I guess we could make
And
that...
now you're going to store cars on here for sale. So,
Well, there's always been cars parked there at some point in time, whether they be cars or cars for retail that were parked there. I don't know that the cars are going to create a problem from a leaking standpoint. The new automobiles are environmentally safe to be parked pretty much anywhere at this point in time. And the discussion you're having, I think we could have with every piece of property sitting on exit 20 based on a 50-year storm event.
and then they come in for site plan, what do we do?
It's going to get awful expensive.
Well, that's our charge.
Catherine, where are on this map, where are the pipes that you are
Yeah.
speaking of?
Right.
Now, those are
These two that are coming out?
If you look at the exit onto Bittern Lane, you'll see
That's where I'm
two
looking.
black lines.
Are there those two
No.
lines?
It says 12-inch B RCP.
All right, I see it, yeah. And where's the,
Well, over here.
okay.
Yeah, is that there?
I tested
So if I'm getting my driver's license,
These two pipes here, this one
and
drains.
then the one that goes under Route 3, is that
Well, we
the
don't know whether they drain, we just know they're there.
Well, that's another one I'm like,
Yeah, we don't know much about the pipes.
I don't know what that is.
Are
Those are
they
catch
underground?
basins.
Dennis,
And I don't know
are
if
they
that
under
catch
the ground? Do they-
basin, it doesn't look like it's connected to their site. That looks like DOT's catch basin and drainage system for the road, to me.
With those two pipes?
No.
I was
Further up
asking
on
on
the
this
western
end of the
side.
building.
What Judy just pointed out is outside of the boundary of this property. So I'm laying out the
That one right
information to DOT.
We don't know too much about these.
Oh, and right here, it's just saying.
Yeah.
So this should show the wetland buffer, 20 foot. Snow storage, probably gonna have to go someplace else. You've got these 12-inch reinforced drainage pipes, and you have no idea what they're doing. I think they, both ends just come to daylight, all four ends, I'm guessing.
So one of the concerns is snow storage over by Pepperoni Pond over there.
Go all in on the, right now, this one's showing snow storage, which would be, wait, it's not right, isn't it?
What's the name of that pond?
Essentially right on top of that
Pepperoni
wetlands
I
there.
don't think it's.
Pepperoni
Does
Pond.
drain into that 12-inch pipe.
It's Pizza Hut, it's Pepperoni Pond.
We should know what the lighting is here.
Delta pond.
He said they're not changing the lighting. They want to indicate it on the plan.
And does the lighting conform to our lighting ordinance? Do we know? Now it's here before, so this is the time to ask that question. What is the lighting?
So we want the lighting.
And what is the parking? I did some math, I came up with 35 parking spaces. Which,
This one's
quite frankly, with this building, seems like a lot.
35? It's a big building.
I know, but a lot of this building is storage, is it not?
Correct.
I remember when it was the Agway, a lot of that was storage.
The part that juts out. It's just my
No,
imagination.
a lot of it was
They have
35
the-
customers would have been
Agway.
crowded.
The first floor, when you walk in, the furniture store had a lot of display space for furniture. So I'd say the first floor is all display space. The second floor, which is wide open and planked, is all storage. There is a basement, but not really usable.
And the storage in the back, because they're not.
There is, the barns on the left-hand side offer storage as well, where we keep sales material and so forth, which we
Somebody else
consider
could do that
mouse food.
Calculation, I just thought, I thought 35 seemed like a lot.
That's a good thing, I guess.
And you base that on the 10,500 square feet?
Yeah, I just looked it up and I wanted, don't remember now. 135 employees.
Number of parking spaces.
So I personally like that site plan in front of me that addresses these extremely important issues. I would like to know what those 12-inch reinforced concrete pipes are doing. What are they serving?
I didn't even know
Just
the,
simply got raw runoff, running into an open pipe, running out of an open pipe to the pond.
I mean, do we have any evidence of problems? What is the evidence of problems before we just
Well, the
wonder
reason-
about
so
the underground
The
systems?
reason I was down there with Conservation Commission, I was very concerned about the storm runoff. We were looking at Bittering Lane, and then they discovered a bunch of things we were there. The water coming out of this pipe, which is not caused by this because it wasn't going on, but there were only cars parked there, clearly had oil in it.
Okay, did you get pictures of
I have
that?
pictures of it.
You didn't bring them?
I didn't think it was on my computer.
It would be helpful.
But we're,
I have to go back. So there's no oil on my property. So is that pipe on my property, or is that property MB's property?
well, that pipe is, water is coming from
Different
the two
directions.
properties like this.
Right.
So what happens on M&B, I shouldn't talk about that on the camera. Shouldn't talk about that on the camera.
Tanner, how, but the one you're referring to, the abutter,
Both
that lot's
properties,
down.
both properties drain
Dennis is lot.
down
It's
into
not
this
down.
pipe. Both properties drain into this pipe. And right where that pipe is that wetland. It's not identified on this map.
And there's oil flowing into that?
Well,
There's oil
it's
floating on
an
top of the
oily
water.
substance of some, I mean, it looks shiny, it looks like
Oh,
oil.
no, yeah.
I mean, you don't know if it's motor
I don't
oil
know
or,
what's there on the camera.
Well, I mean,
But it's a
you
different
didn't
site, a
test it
different issue.
as a motor oil. Could be some other kind of oil.
Nope.
You don't know. We don't know. It's
99%
oily.
So I guess my question is that on my property or not on my property?
It's not mapped, so I can't tell you. I do know it drains into those pipes. I do know that.
I mean,
Because there's no other pipe that goes under Dinner and Lane near this. The next one is much further down, close to the entrance into where the sport complex.
No.
The drainage comes down the side and it also comes down here, and this whole pitches down to it. So my main concern with your site is, what controls the runoff into that pipe from this site?
I have no idea. I thought this was just a change of use, but, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure what runs through that pipe, and I'm sure it has something to do with DOT and nothing to do with anybody else, but,
There's nothing to do with DOT, this is town property in the town road.
yeah, I couldn't tell you whose pipe that is at the end of the street there.
Well, it goes onto your property.
So,
I'm just curious, when did this investigation of my property, and why is this the first time I'm hearing about it too, that there's a team over there? I mean, if there was a drainage problem there and oil on the property, as the owner of the property, I think I would have been the first one to get a phone call as opposed to at a change of use hearing to hear about this. I mean,
Well,
that's a little
it's
disconcerting.
like oil in the water, this property was inactive. So there was no suspicion that it might have come from this property.
can I ask, like, how much oil? I mean,
Let's
there's
not
no.
concentrate on the oil,
Well,
because
I'm
for this site plan,
confused.
I don't think that's a factor, because as I said, this property was inactive, and the chances of any oil going into the wetlands from this property is slim to none.
Well, we take oil pretty serious.
The matter here is
Yeah.
the drainage from the property is going into this pipe.
Right,
Unfettered,
There's no, possibly no catch basin, is what you're saying.
So Catherine's
So
saying we
this
have to
is-
address this, because it could happen.
well, what I'm saying is we need more information on this site plan than what we have.
So the other interesting thing of all of this is, of all the properties I own, and I certainly know the areas where I have water buildup and so forth, that we have to address drainage situations, we clearly do that because every spot is precious to us, as you can see. And there has not been a single wetland issue at that particular site. From a runoff, a buildup, there is not a wet area on my property on that site that I'm aware of. Now, I have other locations where I can clearly say, geez, I know there's some wet areas there that need to be addressed, which we've handled, but this is surprising to me, and surprising that it's not been brought up. But I'm certainly, look, I've been here 28 years. I'm going to do right by the town. I'm the guy that puts in the pervious pavement. I get water shedding. I'm an environmentalist. I actually care, even though I'm in the car business. If this is something I need to look at, I'm glad to look at it and find out what it is. I personally think it's a whole lot about nothing, but I'll put the resources in the team to go take a look at it and find out what that issue is. But I would say, moving forward, Catherine, if there is a problem on any of my properties, you have my cell phone number. I'll be the first guy to pick it up, and I'll address any environmental concerns because I take them that seriously. And rather do that than find out about this at this meeting. I think that we have that kind of relationship. And
Oh, yes, but as I said, until I saw these boundaries, I didn't realize it was on this property. I mean, honestly, and
Okay.
it's not something I'm investigating. I happened to be there with the Conservation Commission when they discovered it.
I'm right there if there's a
And
concern.
I took the pictures, and like I said, it didn't even occur to me that it was on your property.
Well, I'd go a little further and say, if it meant enough for you to take pictures of the property, certainly I'm a phone call away. Just give me a call, and we will address it, and we will not waste everybody's time here. This won't be my third time having to come back, because I would have had this all looked at even before this meeting.
Well,
But
frankly, at the last meeting, I gave a list of what I was looking for, and it didn't include wetland buffers.
Well, I think that the
And lighting.
feedback I got from the last meeting was that the application was not necessarily complete because some of the boxes weren't checked off and needed to be addressed. I was out of town, and I understand. We probably should have done a better job with our paperwork, so that's our fault. But something as serious as this, for someone who's, I mean, I'm part of this town, I'm all in.
I don't look at it in relationship to your property, is that serious? Just, we need to move the snow storage away from it and figure out what these cogs are doing.
And again, when I hear pictures and oil and there and been on site, it has me somewhat concerned, and it's certainly something I want to look at. So I'm more than happy at this point in time, if this needs to be looked at, more than willing to table this. I will reach back out first thing tomorrow morning and find out what team needs to get there to take a look at this. Maybe I could coordinate with you so that we can go there together and we can see exactly what this problem is so that it can be addressed, and then we can get back to a change of use.
I can forward you those pictures if you
You know, at this point, I think I'm gonna go right over there and see where the spot is, and rather than look at the pictures, we're gonna dig in and find out exactly what it is.
Well, we can give you the other things that we want done too, and do it all at once. So when you
Absolutely.
come back, you'll have
Instead of-
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I mean, one I think is the lighting. We want to see what the lighting is on the building, and if it meets our site plan requirements.
Okay, and I'm not necessarily making any changes with the lighting, so I just screwed the bulbs back in and that he had around that porch, so there's not going to be any additional light poles out there or anything to that effect at this point in
And
time.
you indicated on the plan where the lights are,
We don't know where the lights are.
like on the building, like kind of show us where they are.
Yep,
And then just make sure that it says whether they're downcast, that type of thing.
Yeah, look at our site plan and we'll tell you what
no problem, I'll get it
minimum
done.
is.
I'm sure that,
Yep,
And then the snow storage is another? Yeah.
Well,
Well, he shows the snow storage.
Buffer, the 20-foot buffer zone, it's hard to say whether this snow storage could be on the west side in the proximity of this pond.
that particular site, we use a front-end loader too when we're using that property, as we did with the farmer's market, so storage never lasts that long there. It's typically trucked out, but I'll get a plan for that.
And then the other end, the same thing on storage, snow storage.
Well,
Once you figure out the wetlands.
Well, not just the wetlands, they can't go on top of the drainage.
I think it's coming.
So that's another
but we've had
issue we've had.
But we've had other places with snow storage say when it gets to a certain amount, they're gonna truck it,
Right. but we
except
don't-
on the pipes, I
That
understand that.
information didn't come to us.
Well, I think the pipes are something we're gonna have to look into because it's something I was completely unaware of anyway, so we'll find out what the deal is with these.
Kind of got blindsided on that.
What else is there?
We should know what parking is for customer.
Yes. So we
I
need-
thought we had something that said, I swear I saw something that said customer parking. Did we get one that said customer parking?
That's the old one. I don't have that.
I see a lot of car display.
No, I thought there was one that had these, I don't know, these 10 spaces in front of the.
Right.
How many spots do we need on this size?
Oh, gosh.
I thought that had, we had a.
What's that?
How many customer parking? and
Ah,
employee parking do we need?
it's-
I think 10.
2 to 5 employees and then.
Parking's not gonna be a problem there, so I'm not,
We may
Clearly
need to
over.
delineate though where it is for customers, based on the number that you need.
yep,
That's just kind of like
Yeah, 'cause
details
in the
that we
front
need
of the
to
building,
I
you
see
have car
11.
display, so that's probably gonna be parking.
I'm assuming that's these, the ones right here.
Just a rough count.
That's 11.
Over 41.
okay.
plus
I'll
these out
delineate
front.
Oh, I do see customer parking.
Yeah, that's what we're,
And these over
On
here
the
are
left, where it
customer
says,
parking.
it says customer building, but this is a car display, but that's gonna be parking.
car display, what
This
else?
is the one that says customer.
It has some. So
Well, you're looking at one.
we were trying to find the pipes. It looks like the pipes are down in here.
No, over here now, I turned it
Oh,
upside
okay.
down.
confused because I can't imagine there's a lot.
Oh, that might be the zoning, the minimum setback for a building?
Did we already say
That would say-
wetland delineation,
so
so
showing
you're
you
gonna
guys
do
need to
the snow
setback.
storage?
Yeah, come down and then create a
Well, there's this side.
Because we need the delineation for the snow storage, right? And, I think that's just only five, I have
That's where
five.
the building should potentially be.
See, I thought that
And
was
there's telephone
Wetlands kind of
poles
goes
right there.
together,
Right here.
drainage is in that, and
Just-
customer parking. There is one already, he wrote customer parking here, and I can't see.
See, mine doesn't say customer, mine just says display.
On this
Oh.
side is the only spot
Yeah.
I found
And then
customer.
it's-
And I know he wants
And
the
that's where
front
they
to be
rent it out,
customer.
isn't it? Is that a Concord monitor?
No, they, Concord Monitor does this at one
Go
point.
down in that area and look for the,
Okay, but is this the end of the use?
That's the end of the year, the loading dock, but during the day,
No, it's not.
Concord Monitor.
go to that area, go to that area
Parking, yeah,
and see.
on that side.
That's it.
You have to go to, this is, oh,
And there's
No,
five
we-
there.
We share, we're sharing it,
so
so.
you have one that's, what's there now, existing.
Paved
And
parking.
you have to go
Sorry.
to,
We don't have the same.
Employee customer parking.
I
That's
got
only
five
four
spots and
spots.
I can't.
No,
This whole,
So you can add more on there, that's
right, so, like I said,
how much?
undoubtedly it's
It's like too much.
Well, I'm just wondering.
But if, that doesn't even, this form wouldn't even take care of the employees.
Catherine,
Well,
you're saying that you came up with 35 spots required? Is that what you were saying?
yeah, what did you come up with?
Yeah, but that's if you
Somebody's
count the whole 10,500. What's the,
Doesn't give you leeway not to,
okay.
that's my
I
problem.
feel like when we looked at this, we had a number, what's the,
So what's the square footage that you're using for this purpose of the building? Because that should be delineated on here, because that's what we base our parking spaces off
Yeah,
of.
it's somebody.
Right now, it says 10,500.
That's what I was trying to.
I'm going to be so far over on parking because the whole front of the
But
building.
we need a number.
Yeah, no, I'll have that for you. I'll actually give you a parking
You're
plan.
not using the whole 10,500 square feet for this business.
No, no.
So we need that to show on the plan
One
so that we
space
can.
for 300 square feet of floor space.
So you don't want to.
Right.
Just like the law.
Okay, floor space,
Well, I think it's going to be
Not
workable
inclusive of
storage,
storage.
correct. And we'll have,
So it's gonna be less than 10,500.
Well, how many, is it 5,000, is it gonna be 1,000?
rather than guessing here, I know what you're looking for.
Okay.
So you'll have
And
that.
then we'll leave the.
'Cause I mean, I know
number
all
of
this out
spaces
back
that
here.
matches our site plan delineated as, customer parking.
That'll be easy. Yep.
And we talked about.
because we know
We can
all
do
up
that.
back
We
here,
just
the
need more
Concord
detail.
Monitor
Yeah, that's
takes all
fine.
that. So,
Fixing.
And you can show us where staff parking is too.
Okay, yep.
Is that everything that he's gonna bring back next time? Parking, lighting?
Sorry, must be able to structure our,
from what Deb's
Kristen
been
does too.
what we were
listing, you
talking
mean?
about?
the wetland
Christine's
buffer,
got
snow
some.
storage, drainage pipes, stormwater runoff, roof drainage. Those are my questions.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have a note specifically about wetland buffer. I had a note about snow storage and showing that it's not in the 20-foot buffer.
Okay.
So I've got investigate the pipe situation,
Yeah.
indicate lighting on plan, then under snow storage, I have 2 bullets. Is it in the 20-foot buffer on the, I guess, the west side, if you will, and then that it can't go on top of the drainage pipe on the east side. And then parking, it needs to be, shown what's customer parking, what's merchandise parking or whatnot. And it needs to show that it's compliant with the parking regulations in the zoning ordinance.
And we need to know how many square feet they're using for this.
Right, which is part of the,
Parking.
right, so include some sort of floor space calculation to demonstrate compliance with the parking.
Good.
With the snow storage and the buffer showing, do we need all the wetland delineation? Or just in the snow storage area?
Wetland buffer,
Wetland buffer, okay.
20-foot wetland buffer. Are the grassed areas going to remain grassed?
There's not going to be any change to landscaping whatsoever. What's there is there.
So
We're not gonna
on the
extend
western
pavement or anything.
side, It's pretty dirt, it's pretty worn off, gravelly dirt.
Okay.
So that would be, and I think it, looking at these contours, it pitches down towards that pond,
Okay.
so you'd have, and the parking lot is asphalt, so stormwater could cause erosion.
Well,
So if it were grassed, or, you see how that would,
I mean, I think we're going to have it visually appeal. I mean, we're not going to have dirt on the side of our building. When the snow melts and we're actually taking that property over again, we'll have grass. It'll be watered.
So you want to indicate that on the plan then? That's gonna be
Oh,
grass.
I'm sorry. Where you're talking right there, we're probably not going to do anything for that area right there. That area has been, I don't know if it's, I know what you mean there. We're not parking anything there, but I'll have to look at it. I'm not sure what we're going to do there. I know that's all gravel in there and all kinds of a mess. It's not necessarily,
Can I see?
yeah.
I'm just concerned the stormwater runoff from the pavement onto it,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's,
because those grassed areas can prevent that.
yeah. Certainly
Proper landscape can prevent that kind of erosion
yeah.
and runoff.
It's been like that for quite some time, but there's a grass buffer between that and the pond, which is what I assumed you were talking about, which will be maintained.
Unfortunately, this winter, I hope that Eric's got some pictures.
Oh, no, it's just Google Earth. Pull it up, Google Maps, whatever you want to call it. Sorry. I was late, I gotta make up for my cardio. Yes.
So most of these things are just,
God, I thought this was an easy change of use. Holy cow, is there anything else we need tonight?
this is just detail, that's
Yeah,
all
no,
detail, other
we'll
than your
get it.
pipe issue.
Yeah.
The rest is detail.
I'm surprised those weren't noticed.
Is that all we have for suggestions for him to come back?
That's all I'm concerned about.
So, one of the requirements or whatever we're gonna ask him to do is investigate his pipes. That's all you're asking, right? Just investigate? I just wanna clarify it so that we don't come back and then he,
Have to come back again.
and that wasn't clear what investigate
Well, you
meant.
can't have, in today's world, drainage pipes draining stormwater runoff
Yeah.
from daylight to daylight. There's,
No, I'm just clarifying the word, investigate, because clearly,
So if there's a problem, he's gonna have to.
he's gonna
If
go,
you
and
just-
it
it's
sounds to
open
me like
pipes.
he's really gonna do that, but I don't want him to come back
How are we going to control stormwater going?
I don't want him to
through
come
there
back
and
with his
treating it
investigation.
before it goes to the, keeping it, rushing it to the pond untreated.
Okay.
It's gonna have
Grass
to be,
whale, some type of.
So I was under the misconception when you first started describing this, for whatever reason, I was thinking that I was pitching back towards MB Tractor. But as I look at the Google map situation, what clearly it looks like to me is that MB Tractor pitches onto my property. So he's got water that runs down his driveway that apparently is flowing onto my property. Now, what the resolution for that is, I'm not necessarily sure, but that's what it looks like to me.
There is a spring bubbling up to the surface, either on your property or very close to the boundary of your property in MB Tract. It's not runoff from his driveway. That occurs as well. But there is a spring bubbling up from the ground right there. And I have pictures of that.
Okay, I will look, and let's assume, because I don't think the spring is on my property. And if the spring is not on my property, and I have that spring on his property bubbling over onto my property, as well as water that could be shedding down from his driveway, I'm not necessarily sure whether this is my issue or he needs to address his water runoff issue, and I probably need some direction from there as to how I handle that situation with my neighbor. Because I don't think that spring is on my property, if in fact, where that sits, and I know the spot, he doesn't park anything there for a reason. So,
but the pipe is on your property,
The-
that it's
yeah.
draining into, so you're gonna have to get some kind of professional opinion on
Yep.
how to treat that, so it's not, like Catherine said, from daylight to daylight.
right, so I remove my pipe, whatever the case may be, and I end up, whether the water bubbles up there, whatever the case may be.
If you remove the pipe, you may end up having a wetland issue in your parking lot, correct?
Well,
So
yeah,
it may
then
be a
where
way
does
to
that
treat
water
it.
go? Does it just puddle up across the road and onto that property?
It's never been a flow such that I've even noticed it, so we'll certainly spend some time investigating it. I'm just, if
It's complicated.
Yeah, I'm not-
Get some ideas, once you look at it.
Yeah.
You can get some ideas from him how to treat it in a way that will be okay for everyone.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll get a professional to look at it,
Yeah.
yeah, see what he says, but.
Exactly.
Pump there.
Tilton Spring,
Delicious.
Spring.
goes by Pepperoni Pond.
Pepperoni flavored water.
Ice House Spring, oh, there we go.
That it for me?
You want more?
No, absolutely not.
We can arrange
The
that
only
then.
thing would be to make a motion to continue so that we don't have to
Well,
send out new.
shouldn't
ones.
When's the
we
next,
address
when's the
the
next
waiver
meeting that
requests?
he can continue it to?
Well,
Sure,
drainage is-
you could, yeah.
And then
yeah.
that's put to bed also?
Sure, yeah.
We get something accomplished tonight.
Yes,
Right.
let's to see each other, it's been a while.
And then back to waiver requests.
We just like.
On the waiver request, number 2 is the drainage system.
So that,
Well, that has to
we're
do
not
with
gonna
those
waiver
pipes.
that because we need to wait and see what he finds in his discussion.
So you know Roland's gonna call you tomorrow, so you'll have clarification for all of this and what the ask is, just so I've got my notes here, but just for more clarification.
Sure.
Should we wait anything until we find out what?
Judy, do you want to
Well, the
continue
grades,
to the
the
next
grades
meeting?
aren't gonna change.
The grades
They're not
are
gonna
gonna
change any
Will that give
grades.
him
Elevations.
I said they're not changing grades, they're not
Existing
changing
wells,
existing
septic tanks,
wells.
and leach fields.
Right.
There's no leach field.
Right.
Is this hooked to sewer?
And
I believe
Yes.
water and sewer.
Will that,
So we
Dennis,
could
if we
do-
change it to the next meeting, will that give you
Existing
time?
Yes.
Elevations,
Okay.
correct?
When's the next meeting, Doris?
The next meeting is February 13th.
Don't we have quite a bit on that day?
There is quite a bit, yeah.
So I said, as many
I'll
of
skip
these
the
that-
next meeting. Let's go to the next one after. As I said, wasn't necessarily, we've got our focus on something else right now, so if it's a packed meeting, I'll go to the next one.
All right.
Unless you make me first on February 13th, then I'll come to that meeting.
Uh,
And I can
yeah.
tell you, if it would make sense in the best interest of everyone's time, if I do a lot of this preliminary work and maybe send it to you in advance of the meeting for,
Yeah.
at least that way there, we don't have to come and do all of this here. You can say, yeah, this makes sense to us and we're good with it, and then it might be just more preliminary change of use. I don't know if that's protocol or not, I was just kind of offering it up if it's possible.
You know, people
We can look at it
often send
individually,
things
we just
ahead
can't
of time,
discuss it amongst ourselves.
Okay.
or at least that gives us an opportunity to
We
review
can't
before we
discuss
get
it
here.
Yeah, that's fine.
separately, we have to do it in a legal meeting.
But I'm not gonna do this because
Or we
it's
can't do
about
it.
drainage.
I like
it.
Right,
Right.
the outcomes drainage, so.
And this one.
If I,
So we could do-
can I come and
More.
just
I
walk
love it,
around?
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, take my pictures.
Are you
Number
okay?
1, 2, 4,
Except what elevation will that
Give it
change?
myself.
This has to be the pipe on stuff?
no, it's the elevations of the facade of the
No.
building.
We could.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion
Well, that one's got the storm drains.
that we
Okay.
grant the waivers as requested regarding grades, existing wells, septic tanks, and leach fields, elevations, and additional information for subdivision or site plan involving 3 or more lots.
Second?
Do you have any discussion?
We want grades not to be there, did we get grades?
It's a
Yeah,
three or
yeah.
more
I
lots.
did all except
Oh,
for
three.
second
Oh,
and,
okay.
We have grades.
Okay.
yeah, so we did grades, existing wells, elevations, and additional information.
I'm gonna continue it.
You
I did.
She did, she seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the only other 2 we'll have to grant is.
No, we haven't asked
Oh,
opposed.
sorry.
Any opposed?
Everybody said yes.
Okay, now you can get
So
excited.
the only 2 we have to revisit are the 2 regarding
Drainage.
drainage.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll move that along.
Well, on the list.
And the list.
All right, I get to go home and watch all the
Do we
drama
have a
on
motion to
TV tonight then.
continue?
What's the date?
David,
Larry?
you're next tonight.
Oh, yes,
Joe,
right.
You're not done.
February 27th.
One about his red hat.
Motion to continue it to.
We have a motion to continue to the 27th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Try not to throw any shoes at the TV tonight. See you later.
See you.
I could not read
Oh,
these.
Steve, I think.
Can we have that?
All right, next up Do we have any correspondence, Terry?
There's the two letters from the Conservation Commission, and then a couple driveway permit applications. I'll just pass along. They actually say attention Judy Tilton on them, so.
Oh, they want to meet us for.
Keep that.
Somebody at DOT knows Judy.
Oh, yes, he does.
Oh, there's a zone here.
What is Rat City?
On the plane, but hotel,
Deli restaurant, Rap City, I don't know what that is.
do you know where the Manville Road is?
Yes.
Yes.
Come in this way, and right on the right, they've been constructing, right by the trailer sales count.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's jump in our, that's what it's doing.
Yeah, we approved
Yeah,
it.
site plan for that, what,
Yeah.
2, 3?
And did he come in and renew it or something?
He came in and renewed it, I'm pretty
So
sure.
you kind of
Oh,
on the
right,
corner
yeah.
where the billboard
But
is?
the-
That way?
but the
Permit
board
if anybody.
Maintained stipulation that he could continue his other use.
Attention Judy.
Manville's has,
The old Ben's is one. That's why I just went by top of
There's
it.
2 lots past Benton.
Ben's is,
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
hotel,
hotel there, trailer.
She was saying rat.
Oh, right.
yeah, yeah.
Right side down.
She said
Right,
rat.
so not, it's before.
I wouldn't go.
Where is
I wouldn't
It's before you get to the guy who does
Driveway permit.
auto lot.
Yes,
Clough.
it is on Manville Club.
I know, I got it now. Sandwich shop,
It's in
in real north.
This is,
John Route 3.
not the state road.
Is that back?
Thank you.
Right, so,
Give him gas and that stuff.
I was waiting for the other one to come back.
Again?
This is the School Street one.
another driveway.
Vision up on School
So,
Street.
I'm gonna print out those pictures.
Put on the passes.
It's for a
Send
driveway.
you. No, they want copies.
Just that, Buster.
Okay.
Because I figured that would be addressed when the other property came in.
Right.
I didn't expect to see that.
I mean,
Pipes on this property.
you know,
Do we have any other business?
no,
Are you just hanging out? You just wanna?
Just very educated.
It can be.
I don't.
All right, we have nothing else. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
That's also like everybody's had tonight. Motion adjourned, woo!
Sorry, I was late.
Who made the motion,
No,
by the
sorry.
way?
Christie said 25. What?
Made the
Who
motion.
made the motion to adjourn?
25,
I think that
all
might
that.